While the candidates may be downplaying the race factor, make no mistake, for some voters, it's bubbling just below the surface.
It's not going to go away. Pigmentation. One of the truisms of this life is, I can't wash off this black, I can't bleach it off, I can't even pray it off.
I believe that the blacks are more racist than the whites.
Some who think race is a factor say it's almost a little embarrassing to admit.
If Obama get in there, it's truly a change. And that's what I would like to see. And it has nothing to do with his color. Well, you know what? I'm going to be honest. And that's all I can be. Yeah, I think I would like to see a black man in there.
When we close the curtain, when the lights go down low, and we can vote our prejudices because we're hidden.
Question: was segregation such a bad idea? It was a diverse, school, but we had a lot of white teachers. What I noticed about a lot of those white teachers was they seemed to give up too early on the black students, especially the boys, especially dudes like me. It's like they were quick to call us disruptive for one reason or another. They just didn't really try too hard to reach us. It's like they figured from the beginning, oh, I'm not going to be able to get through to this one, and it was just quick and easy for them to give up when you call you a disciplinary problem. Now, when my black teachers, it seemed like they were personally vested in our future because they knew that they were part of the black community and we are part of the black community, and our future is their future because we were the future. Also, think about this. I think some prejudice is almost natural, for lack of a better term. Think back to high school in the lunchroom. Now, like I said, I went to a school that was diverse. Now, in the lunchroom, you were allowed to sit wherever you wanted, but people self-segregated. It's like the races would just pull in together. There was a black section, there was a white section, there was an Asian section, Hispanic section, and this is when people were allowed to sit wherever they wanted. They just almost gravitated toward each other because maybe I don't think it's unnatural to want to be around people who maybe have similar experiences as you and maybe think similar to you. That's what makes you more comfortable. And a lot of times it's based on race. Another example, when I was trying to decide on what school to go to, we went out to visit Michigan State, right? So when I get there with my family, it's like a sea of white people everywhere. And, we're driving around, and they're all white people all over the place. And I'm trying to take everything in, all at once. And then we come into park, we pull up right next to a black family. So we get out of the car and we see each other, and we were so relieved. It's like we were shaking hands and hugging. We had never seen people before in our entire lives. But I was just so happy that there was going to be somebody else there, even just for that day, that I could identify with. Somebody else who had similar experiences as me. Somebody who I knew a few things that we would automatically have in common, and certain things that would be similar about us. And I think that sort of thing is natural.
4 decades ago, on a long-haul flight, the economist Thomas Schelling was doodling with a pen and paper and thinking about the problem of racial segregation. When he got home, he picked up a chessboard to continue his investigations. And you can do the same thing. Simply lay out alternating black and white counters, or brown and white eggs, remove any 20 and add 5 just to mix things up a bit. The board now represents a mixed neighbourhood. Now, these brown eggs aren't extreme racists. They're happy to live in a mixed neighbourhood, but they don't want their white neighbours to outnumber their brown neighbours more than 2 to 1. The white eggs feel exactly the same way, so take any egg that is outnumbered more than 2 to 1 and move it to the nearest acceptable location. As you do this, you'll find something astonishing happen. The brown eggs and the white eggs will separate out like oil and vinegar. Even a mild preference for the colour of your neighbour can lead to extreme segregation. Thomas Schelling's chessboard experiments became famous, and Schelling himself eventually won the Nobel Prize.
Area 9 and board a high security train. If you have not yet submitted your identity,
that's a whole lot of segregation.
You must report to Black Mesa personnel for before you will be permitted into the high security branch of the transit.
gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 merrily.
Due to the high
Time to go down even further.
handled in the Black Mesa compound, no smoking, eating, or drinking are permitted within the Black Mesa transit system. Please keep your limbs inside the train
Hey,
at all
Bingo,
times.
positive
Do not
thinking is
attempt
not
to
gonna
open the
cut
doors
it.
until the train has come to a complete halt at the station platform.
Let's find the biggest study on diversity going down from here.
Amplified rate.
Literally.
A reminder to all Black Mesa personnel. Regular radiation and
Lock and load.
screenings are a requirement.
The second subcategory deals with the biggest study on diversity yet, and the disheartening conclusion made from the study. Without revealing too much, there were mostly problems, and again, are we responding to diversity like this because of an idea or because of nature? Since we've spent such a long time focusing on ethnic self-segregation simply because I wanted to avoid the counter-argument to my video series that the examples that I were given were isolated exceptions, by proving in great quantity and quality all the many examples of ethnic self-segregation everywhere, I'm proving that it is persistent, it's consistent, it is reoccurring globally. So unfortunately that means I've spent 4 or 5 videos on that segment of this series alone. So I want to keep this a bit shorter. So I'm not going to spend my this video reading the whole article for you. The article is called "The Downside of Diversity." A Harvard political scientist, Robert Putnam, finds that diversity hurts civic life. What happens when a liberal scholar unearths an inconvenient truth? And it is the biggest study yet. You can read it for yourself. I'm merely posting it here so that you're aware of it. However, I am going to read the results. Well, quite simply, the results of his new study comes from a survey Putnam directed among residents in 41 US communities, including Boston. Residents were sorted into the 4 principal categories used by the US Census: Black, White, Hispanic, and Asian. They were asked how much they trusted their neighbors and those of each racial category, and questioned about a long list of civic attitudes and practices, including their views on local government, their involvement in community projects, and their friendships. What emerged in more diverse communities was a bleak picture of civic desolation, affecting everything from political engagement to the state of social ties. Then he says something about how he has ensured that there's not a flaw in the study and so on. Here he says, people would say, I bet you forgot about X, and Putnam says of the string of suggestions from colleges there were 20 or 30 X's. So he has really ensured that he hasn't missed anything. But even after statistically taking them all into account, the connection remains strong. Higher diversity meant lower social capital. In his findings, Putnam writes that those in more diverse communities tend to distrust their neighbors, regardless of the color of their skin, to withdraw even from close friends, to expect the worst from their community and its leaders, to volunteer less, give less to charity, and work on community projects less often, to register to vote less, to agitate for social reform more, but have less faith that they can actually make a difference, and to huddle unhappily in front of the television. So there's more TV watching as well. And that is what diversity consistently creates, according to this study. And he says people living in ethnically diverse setting appear to hunker down, that is to pull in like a turtle. And in documenting that hunkering down, Putnam challenged the two dominant schools of thought on ethnic and racial diversity, the contact theory and the conflict theory. Under the contact theory, more time spent with those of other backgrounds lead to greater understanding and harmony between groups. Under the conflict theory, that proximity produces tension and discord. However, Putnam's findings reject both theories. In more diverse communities, he says, there were neither great bonds formed across group lines, nor heightened ethnic tensions, but a general civic malaise. And in perhaps the most surprising result of all, level of trust were not only lower between groups in more diverse settings, but even among members of the same group. And he says, quote, diversity, at least in the short run, seems to bring out the turtle in all of us. This massive new study was based on detailed interviews of nearly 30,000 people across America. And they found that the greater diversity in a community, the fewer people vote, the less they volunteer, the less they give to charity in work and community projects. And in the most diverse communities, neighbors trust one another about half as much as they do in the most homogeneous settings. Half as much. And this is the largest ever study on civic engagement in America, and it found that virtually all measures of civic health are lower in more diverse settings. Now, is this again because of the idea? Is this the after effect because of this racist ideas that we have inherited? Or is it nature? Is diverse societies unnatural? Are homogeneous societies more optimal for our human nature?
Slow down, guys.
Peter, what's up?
Military caravan got stuck near Alexeyevska. A tunnel collapsed or other shit. You have to use the service tunnel bypassing Alexeyevska.
Ah, fuck. I hate this tunnel. All right, Peter. Open up the gate. No point being stuck here forever.
Why? Well, what's wrong with the tunnel?
Well, it's an ordinary tunnel. Not as well lit, maybe. I went through there last month and, well, I just don't like it. That's all.
Have a safe trip.
We're riding a ham car and we're armed, so I think we'll make it there okay.